Welcome back to the Adventure Athletes podcast. In this week's episode, I sit down with another amazing guest. He's been on the podcast before, and every time he comes on, I manage to get him just after he does something amazing. So, this week's episode is with Nathan Hutton, who has recently won the Epona 100, setting a new course record and being the first person to complete it in under 24 hours. Absolutely phenomenal effort by Nathan, and as much as he hates coming on podcasts, he always comes back to do mine, and I feel so privileged to have him on. It's a great episode. I learned a lot this time about how Nathan has changed his training approach from Wild Horse to Epona, all the differences he's made, and everything that he's now implementing, which he absolutely swears by. And it's keeping him going. It's keeping him injury-free, touch wood. And yeah, I can't wait to see what he does in the future. Now, before we get into it, a quick update about Adventure Athletes. So we have just started doing outdoor activity days, like properly. So recently I took a group of people up to do the Welsh Three Peaks. We had an amazing day out, and now we're looking at what we can do next. So the rest of this year, we've arranged to do the Abergvenny Three Peaks in August and the National Three Peaks in September. So if you're looking to book on to one of those events, then head over to adventureathletes.co.uk/courses and you can sign up now. Now, if you can't do the events this year, there's going to be plenty more coming out next year. I'm really excited to share more about that as it comes up. But before we get started, a quick word from Soulmate.
We're Soulmates. Whether you're new to running or an experienced runner, we've got you covered for both road and trail, from shoes to nutrition to running poles and everything in between. Use code ADVENTURE10 both in-store or online for 10% off your order.
Now, with all of that out the way, enjoy the podcast. Second time on, Nathan Hutton. I usually ask what was your call to adventure, but you've been on, you've done that. So let's see, because it's been about a year since you've been on, hasn't it?
It'll be a year and a couple of months, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Wild Horse.
Yeah, last time you came on was literally the week after Wild Horse, or like a few days after,
I think it was, right, yeah.
Where I just reached out being like, oh, you've just won Wild Horse, like, do you want to come on? And you was like, not really, but I'll do it anyway.
Awkward. Yeah.
And now you've just won Epona, and I did the same thing, being like, you've just won Epona, do you want to come on? And you was like, not really, but I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, I think I had the same reaction. I think I remember you asking me on Sunday morning, right?
Yeah.
After the race.
Yeah, I didn't mess about, did I?
No, you didn't mess about.
Straight across the finish line, like, well done, Nate.
Come on the podcast.
Episode 2.
Yeah, and I think I was kind of like, not sure why anyone wants to hear from me again, but sure.
You say that, but they do. I've had people, like, I had to ask you before anyone asked me, but I've had messages straight after Epona being like, is Nathan coming back on the podcast? I can't wait to hear about it. So...
people are kind.
You say that, they're not. They're just, you do amazing things and you don't give yourself enough credit. So, yeah, I think that's a good starting point, is give yourself some credit, Nath. I know it's hard.
Yeah, I think with all these things that because I guess running is different for everybody, and racing is different for everybody, and you know some are totally sort of out there with it and you know kind of share lots of stuff on socials and talk about it, and that's totally cool. It's just not. It's never been it's never been me really. Like I'll put, you know, we'll do post about it, and it's nice getting, you know, comments, because I guess you're kind of celebrating it. But no, I've not. I haven't cracked that bit yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always feels odd, especially post race, because like so much goes into it, and then afterwards, you're always a bit like, okay, that's done now.
Yeah.
What, you know, what's next?
Yeah. Do you get like the post-race blues? Because like there's a lot going around about that at the moment. A lot of people opening up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do. They weren't. I think it was weird this time round because I had obviously finished the Sunday morning, and Sundays all like that. Sunday was a blur just because you're so tired. But really, but something I don't usually do. I'd usually take a few days off work to mentally recover and physically recover. But I was straight back in on Monday, which was straight back in Monday morning, because we had something going on in work this week, which I planned because Epona wasn't planned. It wasn't a planned race. So when I then slid Epona in, I'd then gone to book a couple of days off post Epona and gone, oh, actually can't because I've got this thing. So it's been weird. Like, what I mean is I haven't really thought about it too much.
Yeah.
Because I finished Sunday, you're so exhausted, you're chatting for a bit, you go home, you have a couple of hours sleep, and you just feel rubbish all day. You just feel tired all day, and then it was like, right, bed, get up, and I've had a busy week in work and travelled a little bit, so I've not really had the time to really like process it and think about it. So I haven't had those kind of post-race blues. I have had them, and they're awful. They were really bad after Wild Horse because I had the week off. And it's really odd because I would expect, in my head, I think you'd expect it if it's been, if it's gone really bad and you're really disappointed with, the outcome, and we all have those races, then you're like, totally expect it. You're like, but it's the worst when you have the, your best race and you have the best outcome, and you're like, and I think it's because there's so much noise around it. And I've always struggled to deal with that noise, in terms of like, people being really kind, people, sending messages, and yeah, that's always been a battle, and that sometimes it's weird because it can feel like it makes it worse.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but yeah. But after all that rambling, no, I haven't had them yet. I haven't had them post Epona yet, and I think it's because it's been a busy week, and I haven't really. I've thought about it. I have thought about it, and people have kind of chatted about it and socials and stuff, but I haven't really. I haven't gone into tons of like, okay, let's really, let's think about it. Yeah, it's been an odd week. And that might happen for me this weekend because it's a pretty chill weekend. I'm not running long this weekend. I'm giving myself a bit of kind of easing in time. So yeah, maybe it's just because I've been busy that it'll just pass by.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's the latter. Of like, yeah, you get to like skirt around it this time.
Me too, because it can be brutal.
Yeah,
it can be really brutal. I mean, it can be sort of like emotionally brutal as well. And I think that's because you put so much into it, I guess, and you're exhausted. You're exhausted. Put so much into it. There's so much noise for 24 hours. Everyone wants to speak to you. Everyone's sending you messages, and then like there's silence.
Yeah.
That's when you're like, okay, so everything that I've done for the last 6 months or however long you've been training for is done. The race is done. I'm like, right, that's it. And it's really weird. It's a really weird feeling.
Yeah. They talk about it a lot with like Olympians and like gold medal syndrome. This like you've spent 4 years building up to this one thing, and then once it's done, it's not like this massive like, I've achieved it, I can relax now. It's like, I've achieved it, but now what does my life look like?
Yeah.
Because like you've spent so long, and that's been everything.
Yeah.
I remember at the finish line of Epona, you were saying like, this feels so good because I have put so much work into it. Like, people don't see all these training sessions that you put in, like in the dark. Like you're saying, you don't shout about it a lot, so people just see like your Strava, and it's like, oh, he's off on another run. And it's like, but people don't really see what goes into that, and like the early mornings and I have to fit this around my life and stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, that's done, so what does my life look like now?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that it's it would be the same for everyone turning up to do those kinds of long endurance races. I think that there is sacrifice, and people always ask, how do you kind of be amongst that front group of people, and the only answer that I can give, because I think the truth is fucking hard work. There's nothing more than that. I'm not, we're not, and look, I'm not, fucking a Christ, an elite runner or an athlete. I do my thing. Sometimes you get great results. Sometimes you get great results. Sometimes you don't. But it's fucking hard work. It's commitment and sacrifice. It does not. None of that comes for free. I'm always envious of the people who do it with families, because I think that I kind of think like my time is my own time, and yet I'm always thinking like, I don't have enough, do I have enough time to do all of this stuff? And yet other people will do that around families, which blows my mind. So yeah, it's just, it's hard work, it's commitment, it's sacrifice, and it's a lot of hours training, whether that's out running or whether that's gym and doing the other bits in between, and then work. It's funny actually, because I was chatting to someone yesterday who a lad in the team in work is a kind of semi-professional cricket player, and we were chatting about something, and ultimately I think that this kind of stuff is like a full-time job on top of a full-time job, particularly if you're training for something like Epona or Wild Horse. It's a full-time job. You're spending, you're spending 14, 15, 16 hours a week training on top of a full-time job, on top of life stuff. So yeah, it's a massive commitment. I don't know why we do it sometimes. but then you get to go, you get to go and turn up to something like Epona, and yeah, I guess that's that's why I do it, right? And regardless of whether everyone has a goal for themselves, but turning up and doing a race like that in those conditions, you're like, yeah, well, that's why I guess the sacrifice is worth it.
Yeah, it's a hard one to wrap your head around, especially for people that don't do it. But the way I sort of think about it is, you've got the highs and lows in life anyway. Ultras especially, most sports do, but ultras especially sort of amplify that in the race. So you'll go through these really amazing moments. I can imagine some of the mountains you were up and seeing that sunrise, and just the appreciation of it, and being wow, I get to be here and I get to experience this. But then you also hit points where it's what the fuck am I doing? When you fell in the canal, for example. I can't imagine that's a high point.
Actually, I think the let's just clear this up, mind, because I kind of I feel like I'm blaming Jenks, and that's unfair. But he basically exposed it, because he'd asked me a question at checkpoint. He'd asked me a question at checkpoint 7 about water, but what he was referring to was totally different to what I thought he was referring to. So then I blabbed about the whole fall in the canal piece, which exposed it. Otherwise, nobody would have known. so yeah, so yes, I fell in the canal in Brecon. So we'd been cooling our heads and cooling our heads and getting water in our hearts at any opportunity. To be fair, because it was the one thing that we could do to keep ourselves relatively cool, whilst not trying to drink all the water that we were carrying. And you can't make it up, really. I mean, I basically misjudged the gap between the water and the path in Brecon on the canal. And as soon as I'd gone to reach with my hat, I knew that I'd misjudged it, and I could feel myself going. And yeah, I was gone. And Ben is juggling, charging his Garmin at the time, and also trying to drag me out of the canal. So those are your two race leaders. Shambles. What was I saying before the canal? I can't remember.
I was just saying about you experience
Yeah,
everything. That's a great example of everything.
I don't follow that example. I don't think. Although I will say it cooled me down. I was pretty cool for about a half hour, 40 minutes. It's incredible how quickly I dried though in that heat.
And you got a wicked story from it. So
yeah. Honestly, can't make it up. I think though yeah, the highs and lows are real. I'd going into coming off the Blorange and down the basin. I felt so good. Running wise, and then you get into checkpoint A, and I'm just kind of sussing out getting Nat and Zach, that's partner to just check on, and I was doing it quite regularly. Basically, I wanted to know where the field were to see how much breathing space I had at checkpoints. It was either a quick checkpoint or I could spend a bit more time there. That was the plan towards the end. Really, it was all about how much breathing space I had and how much time I had banked. And getting in there, I felt great. Felt really, really good, and didn't spend too long there, I don't think. And then we were back out again, and so you're in a positive mindset. You're feeling really good. We've got 13 miles, 14 miles to go. And then I'm probably a quarter up the climb of Skirrid, and I'm a completely different person. I mean, I was fucking so over it. I think I even remember sort of, there's that bench. There's a bench about a quarter of the way up, maybe a bit more. I think I even said to Nat, I was like, there's a fucking bench there. And she's like, do not sit on that bench. Do not sit on that bench. And it's weird. It's like small little things that can make a difference. Because that climb was awful. I was so done. I was so over it. The miles are weighing on your legs. The climbs are adding up. Yeah. But then you get to the top. It's a bit, the breeze is there, so it's a bit cooler because it's still so sticky. And I don't know what time that was. It must have been, I don't know, 1:30 a.m. perhaps, maybe a little bit later. So sticky. I mean, I still had a t-shirt on. I hadn't put any other layers on the entire race. It's still, you're like, how is it still this? And I kept on asking that. I was like, is it still warm? Thinking like there was something, whether I'm overheating or like, is it just me? And she's like, no, it's still warm. And then we get to the top and you have that breeze and it's just like, oh my goodness, thank God for that. And then, yeah, you're down off Skirrid and feeling a little bit better again. But it's, the highs and lows, yeah, can be pretty brutal.
Yeah. I think that what's not spoken about enough is, although we've mentioned like post-race blues, is the highs and lows in like preparation as well. Like everyone talks about in the event of ultras of like, yeah, like you'll go through this event and you'll hit like every emotion under the sun in like such a short period of time. And then it's like, really you've been experiencing that for like the past like 6 months building up to it as well. Because like you'll have days where you'll go out and run and you'll be like, oh, I feel amazing. And then there'll be other days where you're like, this is the worst thing in the world. What am I doing? Do I even want to do this event anymore?
100%. And I think for me, so I've had a really tough few months, running wise, race wise, with loads of ups and downs. It's been really brutal actually. So I ran the Winter Downs in December, which was a Centurion race, 100 miles along the South Downs and North Downs Way. Kind of 40, 50 miles into that, I started to get some knee pain. It was outrageous. I'm talking like a 10 out of 10 knee pain. I could not run. I had to basically use my poles to sort of take pressure off because it was that bad. But I was like, I'm not fucking DNFing you. I'm going to come all the way here to walk away with nothing. Tommy Mack was crewing me at the time, actually. A lad from Caerphilly. So I was seeing him at, like, in between checkpoints. It basically was a death march and then a bit of a trot in between. Anyway, got that done. If that doesn't scream to you, you need to get something done. You need to get looked at. What it does, right? But no, I go into January and I'm like, it's still been a little bit painful. It's starting to ease off, and all of a sudden the knee pain is gone, and I'm back into training again. So the Chester 100 was in April. That was my goal, and I'm so frustrated with myself and so annoyed with myself because I knew going into Chester that the knee pain would come back. I'd done nothing with it. I ignored it, but yet I'm still thinking that I'm going to go and do it right. So I go to Chester, and I was actually a mess on the way up to Chester, because I just knew in myself that, that I've done nothing with it. So it's not gone away. It's going to come back, and of course it comes back. So I'm having, running really well. Nat and Zach are on their way to Chester to crew me. Nat pace me, Zach crew me for the second half, and I have to DNF because the fucking pain is like unbearable. I can't run on it. I'm doing like maybe half a mile, and then I'm having to stop because it's just excruciating. It was awful. It was an awful experience because you've got people tracking you. You've got people that are giving up all of their time to travel to Chester, and it was like I was absolutely devastated. One, you're sending those messages to people who've been tracking you because they want to know what's happened. You've got people coming up, and you're like, I can't do this. I'm done. It was not a good period. It was not a good couple of days after that. It hit me really hard. But then I had to go and get this knee sorted. Yeah. And Joe, the physio I see, is the same physio actually that Nat saw when she was training for a while. Also, she had Achilles issues, and this is crazy. I mean, the space between. And of course, so, I then have a DNF, which fucking stings, right? That you carry that, and everyone will carry that. Anybody who's experienced a DNF will absolutely know exactly what I'm talking about. It is brutal because you put so much expectation on yourself. Regardless of your goal, your individual goals, you put so much expectation on yourself. Nobody wants to walk away with a DNF. It hurts. So then I'm like, I need to fucking get back out there. I can't have this haunt me, because it was. So I see the physio a couple of weeks, and I'm like, I've signed up to Epona. She's like, when is that? 4 weeks? She's like, not ideal. You're going to have to ramp up the mobility, ramp up the strength. Think about maybe, not necessarily cutting down your long training miles, but cutting down some of them to fit some more mobility and strength. And so actually my only goal, I mean, you have a sort of, if everything goes well, a goal, but really the main goal for Epona was going in to do a pain-free 100 miles, and finishing finishing in a decent time and taking that fucking buckle home. Because another DNF, so dramatic. I was saying to Nat, I was like, if I DNF at Epona, I'm retiring. I'm done. That's it. I'm done. But that was really that, you kind of have a goal that if I get past that 50-mile mark and I'm pain free, I'm like, okay, we're good. Yeah, we've managed it really well. We've done what we needed to do, because the pain would have kicked in before that, as it did before. So that was the goal, really, was pain free 100 miles, walk away with the buckle. But then if it was good, if it was really good and there was no issues, then past that 40 kind of 50-mile mark, then let's see what we can do. So that really was that was the plan.
Yeah. And you smashed that plan.
Yeah, I mean it was on my mind the whole morning. Like, it was on my mind the whole night before. And it was on my mind the whole night before. And I'm just lucky. I'm so lucky that I have, the best training buddy in that, because she knows what I'm like, and she knows I'm dramatic, and she knows I sink into these like places that I shouldn't be sinking into. And it's really good to have that when you're kind of you're in an Airbnb waiting for race morning. You've got so much like anxiety and stuff around what happened, and you're carrying Chester with you, thinking is this gonna happen again tomorrow. That helps. Basically, just tells me to focus on what you can focus on, right? Like the other stuff is out of your control. But yeah, I think it was on my mind all morning, and then I think it started to kind of shift off my mind. The more miles we ticked off, me and Ben kind of had a really good chat as we were going, and managed the heat and stuff. And then I think I even turned around, I think to Ben at about 50 miles and said, actually, I got no pain here. So I think that then gave me, I could then settle then. I was a bit like, right, okay, we've been running, we've been ticking off the miles really well. We're past the Krikow checkpoint. This is great. Being pain free at that point. Let's see what we can do later on. So yeah, it went really well.
Yeah. It's just like good to hear that you managed the whole thing pain free with such little time before, like you said, like 4 weeks notice.
Yeah, it must have been. I mean, 4 weeks. I'd done a couple of weeks physio prior, so I probably had like 6 weeks in total.
Yeah.
And do you know what is mad about things like, I hate doing stuff like mobility and strength because it takes me away from time running. But the pain I was experiencing, you're like, it's so painful. You're like, well, my leg's gonna fall off. Obviously, this is so painful. There's no way it can be something straightforward.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's poor mobility, and it is poor. And she was showing when Joe the physio was showing me, she was like, it's so, you can see even the flexibility and the tightness in the leg, and then some strength, the lack of strength in this in both my legs, to be fair, but predominantly this right knee. How quickly you can turn around if you invest in it. But I had to invest in it.
Yeah.
And I ramped that up then in the last month. And yeah, I mean, that's the recipe for me now, is I keep that up and I'm consistent with it. And I don't have to have, and that will, going into races and going into, the week before and the night before, whilst you'll have obviously that kind of standard race anxiety because you're doing something that's it's pretty mental. I don't have to worry about whether I'm gonna, this now is going to be something I can put aside. There are other things that can obviously come up that will stop you from finishing, but at least what's in my control, I'm managing.
Yeah. So what does like a week of training look like for you now compared to like Wild Horse? Because I know you did some like classes and stuff pre-Wild Horse.
I guess a typical kind of in sort of training mode week will probably consist of mobility session every single day. So 25 minutes of mobility every day. I do that at home.
Yeah.
With a band, the evil foam roller, and the kind of stress, the whatever the balls are called, the trigger balls. I do mobility every single. I was going to say every single day, but I've started back. I had a bit of a break after Epona, but a typical would be every single day mobility. 2 to 3 strength sessions a week. One of those being a class. One class a minimum, and then 2 I can do at home. But you need to have kind of some weights, some kettlebells to be able to do that. And then really, my runs in between. I'm trying to have one full day off running. That might sound mad, but I wasn't doing that. But so I try and have one full day off running, and I guess I kind of keep my Monday to Fridays pretty easy. Like I don't really run anything over 10 miles, 11 miles. There may be one where I do an odd sort of half marathon distance, but generally, I keep it pretty easy. Maybe one of those days will be a double, because I do like to have sort of like 35-40 miles going into the weekend. And then the weekends are generally big. I mean, they've always been big for me. I've always been a volume runner over the weekend. So 20-25 Saturday, 20-25 Sunday for a training week. So when I'm 10, 11 weeks out from a race, that's kind of my plan.
Full race mode.
Full race mode.
That's what I got.
Yeah. But that's generally how a full like a really busy training week would look like for me. And the back-to-backs aren't necessarily because I have to. I've always enjoyed going out and doing long training runs. Always. People, I get messages from people saying, you don't necessarily need to do all these long back-to-back runs. I'm like, I know I don't. I just love them. I've always been somebody that loves going out all day on the trails. It's just, and again, I'm lucky that that I have, training buddy and that loves that too, because I think that, before that would be obviously super lonely because it's hard. Yeah, because you're running for hours on the weekend by yourself. So having that person to go out with you is and Sean as well, but we don't do it often enough. That having that just 4 or 5 hours just goes by talking shit about running, talking shit about lots of other stuff. It just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. How did that whole thing with you and Nat come about? Like, how did you meet? How did you be like, oh yeah, let's... Because like you pretty much run together like every week, don't you?
Yeah. Other than when we've, when there's life stuff and plans, yeah. We actually met on the Rhythm, a couple of years ago. I was running it with Lee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We hadn't really done kind of many runs, and he was in the middle of his... I don't know the setup. I can't remember if he was in the middle of it or the end of his slam. I can't remember. Is the Rhythm...
It's the last one.
So he's at the end of it. He was at the end of his slam. Excuse me, and he was doing it, and I was like, you know what? I'd come off a race a couple of months before, and I was like, you know what? I'll just do it with you. I'll go run it with you, and then yeah, met a kind of few of us raced off, and yeah, it was me, Lee, Nat, Darren, who was also at Epona on the weekend. I can't remember his surname. Tall chap, really nice tall chap. And then yeah, just started chatting really, and from that, kind of sussed out that Nat was local, and yeah, the rest is history really. I think yeah, we're pretty similar, and we run pretty well together, and it's made a massive difference.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a fucking special runner.
This is what everyone says. Like, you two partnered together. It's just like, it's just a recipe for success for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I will say actually that Nat's partner Zach is a bit of an unsung hero in this, because what you don't see in the background is the stuff that makes it work. So it's all well and good being able to go out and do the miles and train, but I know we kind of call him chief crew really, but that's the stuff that again makes a massive difference. You know, when you're in between a checkpoint and 10 miles, 10 miles may not seem very much, 8 miles may not seem very much, but when you're already like 70-80 miles in, and there's someone that meets you in between that, and you're only going 4 miles before you see someone and getting a swig of Coke or whatever it is, that I think to be able to push it as much as we try to, I think you have to have that. I think it'd be really difficult. I think it's really difficult to do it without that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look, I've always, I've said before, I think we make an absolutely fucking great running team. I mean, pacing duties, as we call them, are not even a sort of question anymore. One signs up to a race, you're automatically signed up to pacing duties, and it just it's been fun. I'm very, count myself very lucky, because and again, this is the thing with Epona. I didn't have pacer going into Epona because Sean had signed up. Well, actually, so Sean had signed up. I'd said I'd pay Sean. That was then saying, well, she'll try and maybe come and do a bit, because she knew she'd be recovering from Wild Horse. I then go and tell Sean that I've signed up to Epona. Quite rightly, Nat is like, well, I'll pay Sean then. So I went into this knowing I would not have a pacer and would have to figure that part out and just manage it. Like, devastating for Sean that he had to retire. And the only reason I found out is because it must have been about 50 miles, just over 50 miles. I get a text from Nat saying, "Do you want a pacer? Sean's retired. I can meet you at checkpoint 6, which was 65 miles." I'm like, yes, please. That changed everything. Like, and I mean everything. The complete dynamic of the race, because I mean, you can never say what might have happened, but I'm not sure the outcome would have been the same as it was on the weekend if I hadn't have had that. It was fine. Me and Ben were running really, really well together. I think he was aware of the heat a bit more than I was, because he'd had the kidney issues that he'd had racing off his GB qualifying track race. As we were getting to that checkpoint 6, I was a bit kind of like, I was getting a bit worried about the rest of the field. and then seeing that at that checkpoint, I was like, okay. Ben was sort of like, look, if you guys want to go off, clear, you're running better, you're feeling better, if you want to go. And I was like, nah, let's just see how you are. Like, we're not going to, shoot off. We've been running together all day. Let's just see. We left that checkpoint, I think, within a couple of miles. I kept on kind of looking back, and he was just kind of sort of just a little bit tailing. And I was like, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. And then he kind of shouted. He was like, look, it's all good. You go. And obviously I made sure that he was all good and stuff. And I think I turned around and that and said, okay, let's fucking go now. I'm ready. Like, I felt like I'd never felt that strong. The energy that I thought I had, that in that kind of in those miles in a 100-mile race before, never.
Yeah.
I've always emptied the gas tank, struggled. That's a theme in every 100-mile race I've done. I've never had a race where I've run better in the second half than I did in the first half. I'm not saying I did that for the entire second half of Epona, but it's funny actually, because a friend had gone through my Strava, and I think 75 miles, we were running like sub 9 minute miles. Like we I think, I turned around to us, I was like, yeah, let's fucking go now. And I was keen to push it. And we did. Apart from her leaving me a couple of times where she just runs off. I'm like, you know that I'm like 80 miles in, right? Can't necessarily keep up with you. And that absolutely changed everything. The whole dynamic of the race. I can't say I don't know. I can't say I know what would have happened if I hadn't have had a pacer. But certainly making that move then, it changed everything.
Yeah. It really does. Like, people say, like, takes a village. Like, like you said, like, without the crew, without the pacers, and like we was chatting in the car, you was like seeing like the same volunteers at all the events, and seeing like me and Jenks out and about and all of that. It just does make that difference to your race, doesn't it?
Makes a massive difference to your race. You put the kind of physical stuff aside. I think that having a distraction, seeing someone who's familiar, having a distraction. I mean, seeing Jenks at checkpoint 7, again exposing my canal fall on video, which I thought was outrageous. Again, makes a massive difference, because you're like chatting, and we'd gone in there and I think I'd asked Zach or Nat to again find how much breathing space I had, how much time I had banked, just so I wanted to it was the one stop where I wanted to just sort my feet out, get some clean socks. I hadn't done that, and they were just feeling a little tender, so I knew I had a few minutes to sort those out, chatting to Jenks, sorting some snacks out, and you're like, oh yeah, cool, let's go again. And it makes a massive difference. And again, the volunteers at every point along the way, you just can't do enough. I just think it's amazing that people give up so much of their time to go and support people, and they're out there all hours. Yeah. And it's just incredible.
Yeah, there was people that were pretty much there for like the whole 50 hours.
It's amazing.
Like, not just like Reese. Reese is obviously there. It's his event.
Yeah.
And props to him for doing these events and making sure he's at the finish and all of that. Like, I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
But then having these people that are just like, right, I'll volunteer, and like they might be like, right, so Pegasus have now got like a 12-hour limit for volunteers for these events. So you have to do like 12-hour shift, then you have to have a 12-hour break because people like burn themselves out. But then,
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, so that's something they've implemented recently, because it's like people want to keep giving,
It's amazing.
But then, like, people are just now finding ways around that. So they're like, right, so I'll do the 12 hours with Pegasus. Then it's like, well, I'll just go and help out at a checkpoint somewhere, or I'll go and crew someone, and then they'll be like, and then I'll take on the next day's 12-hour shift.
Absolutely mad. It's amazing.
Yeah. And Pegasus are really good, and they're like, they keep an eye on people, and they're like, right, you need to go have a sleep. Like, this is silly. We've got enough people, like, sort yourself out. And they don't let people take it too far. But, like, the fact that people are willing to, and, like, some of these people that were doing it, like, are, like, pretty new into it all as well. And it's like, you've, like, given up a whole weekend.
It's amazing.
Just for this. And then, like we were saying earlier, like, they're at every event. They're not just at that event. Like, you'll see the same faces. So it's just like, you're giving up, like, half your weekends throughout the year.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think that's why, you know, Pegasus, Wild Horse, Epona, I think it's why they're just really special events. I mean, I love racing them. I don't, you know, I haven't done a Pegasus event for a little while. I'll be at the Piggin, which is pretty cool. But you know, Wild Horse, just amazing. Again, Epona, just an amazing event, and amazing event. And whilst they're, you know, attracting racers from everywhere, I think it still feels really kind of family, cozy, comfortable, and I think that makes a massive difference as well. Is that you just feel like you're, regardless of having like your pacer with you or crew with you, I just feel like you absolutely know you're looked after, and that makes a massive difference. And Reese is just, I mean, he's just a great human, and you can see you can see that he, and Karis, they just, you know, I think I remember joking with Karis coming out of checkpoint 7. She was holding Nye, and me and Nat were leaving, and she kind of was like, go and enjoy then. And I think I turned around and I was kind of like, I was like, I'd give you my response, but I can't swear. She was like, it's okay, you can swear. And I was like, I'm not fucking enjoying this. It's just awful. But you know, with a joke and a laugh, you know, it's, they've built something pretty special. And you can see, you know, crossing the line, like he genuinely actually cares. Like that makes a massive difference.
Yeah, it's incredible. They're the sort of people you want organising these races. Is the ones that really care about not just the event but the people that do them. Yeah. Reese has got that in abundance.
Oh, in abundance. You can see it throughout the, you know, from the kind of reg setup to all the way to the finish. It's a fucking evil route. It's an incredible route, but it's a fucking evil route at times. But you know, you sign up to a 100-mile mountain race in South Wales. That's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get evil. But again, but also, you know, we talked about on the, when I was on before, about the accessibility, because that also is a big difference to what they've created in all of their events, is the accessibility piece. Because, you know, a lot of hundreds are pretty tight cut-offs. Like, you know, forget like the front pack or the front races. They're you know, when you start looking at the numbers, they can be pretty tight cut-offs. But by doing what they've done, they've made it more accessible, so that lots of groups of people can go and do it. Sure, you can go race it if you want to. You can, jaunt it, be absolutely nothing but enjoying being amongst that pack and taking it all in and soaking it up and enjoying the route and all of that. Or you can get in there and have to work hard for 40 hours. It caters, and that's what's great about it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, incredible to see, because like you said, it's not just about the front runners. Then it's about anyone that wants to go out and conquer that challenge. Because again, we were saying in the car, like 100 miles is no joke. Like anyone that's even turning up to the start line deserves a round of applause.
100 miles is definitely no joke. 100 miles is definitely no joke. It is so far. It's so far, and I think what's weird about it is that and me and Nat have chatted about this before. I'm not sure, because people will always say, like, has it sunk in yet? I'm not 100% sure if it ever does properly sink in. Like, go back and look on the map and go, oh, I ran that. You're like, fucking what? Like, sorry, that's outrageous. I don't think it ever proper. I don't know. It always feels a bit strange to me. Maybe it does sink in the sense of, yes, I've done it. Yes, I've achieved it, because it gives you confidence to go and do another one. I suppose if it didn't sink in at all, I'm not sure your brain would be able to process going to do another one. But I don't think it ever really. Yeah, I don't know. It always feels strange to me. And not that I've done tons of them, but the ones that I've done, I don't think you're like, yeah, I did it, but it's all a bit surreal.
Yeah.
But I think the surreal bit is the fatigue, tiredness, because a lot of it sometimes can be a bit of a blur. When you see photos of sections that people have put up, I'm like, did I do that? I don't remember. I don't remember that section, but of course it looks different depending on whether you do it different times of the day. That can skew that can really sort of mess with your brain in terms of when you see people on certain sections, you're like, I don't fucking remember seeing that. But again, it could be nighttime, could be daytime. So yeah, I think all of that is all that kind of messes with you a little bit. But yeah, it's I mean, it's funny. Someone was chatting the other day, actually, because of going to do the Pigum, and it's really weird. I haven't done anything that distance for like since before Wild Horse. And I think that's the other thing that sometimes we forget about, is we normalise doing these long distances because you've done them before.
Yeah.
You get the classic, oh, well, it's fine because you've done it before. I'm like, it's absolutely not fucking fine. It's completely the opposite of fine. But yeah, people do normalise it, and I think sometimes that then can humble you. I'd had the North Downs 100 in the August after Wild Horse. So I did Wild Horse in May, end of May, and then I was doing the North Downs 100 on the 4th, 5th of August. That was like my humbling moment. Because you go and do Wild Horse, you caught up in all of that. And then you go back to racing 100 miles, and you're like, well, it's half the distance. I'll be fine. And that was humbling.
Yeah.
So I think that's good sometimes, because it's not, you can normalise this stuff sometimes because you do it, but it's still so far. it's still so far, and it still asks so much of you. Whether it's the route, whether it's the mountains, whether it's, you know, the weather, whether it's like a niggle that you haven't felt and you start to feel, and so much can happen over 20, 30, you know, hours. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that sort of like leads into something else we was talking about in the car. Like, we might as well have just recorded the podcast in the car, to be fair.
Potentially, yeah.
You'd have probably been more comfortable there
Maybe,
as well.
yeah, maybe, yeah.
Next time I'll just hide a camera in the corner. But we was talking about the sort of, because you've done these things before and because you've achieved them, that expectation that people have of you when they hear that you've signed up or you're at the start line or at registration, and you're saying about like, oh yeah, people are just like, when I'm collecting my bib for 100 miler, and then they're like, oh, like it's going to be like a race between you and Ben, and you're just there like, it's 100 miles. Like,
Yeah.
anything can happen.
It's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard because obviously people also don't know what you've been dealing with for the last few months. You've had the DNF at Chester and all of those feelings. So instantly it's in your head. It's like, well, if I DNF now, can you imagine what that's going to be like? Or if it goes really badly, you know, you're going to get there like, well, what happened? Question. So it is really hard, and you know, people do it in, you know, the nicest. They're doing it for the nice reasons, and it's nice. You know, they think that, you know, they obviously think that maybe they think that you're better than you think of yourself. I don't know, but you know, it comes from the right place. But it's always really hard to manage, because again, yeah, you're going into something that is massive, and expectation sometimes can be can be a tough one. I mean, that's why sometimes I go off and do like the Centurion races, because I am an absolute nobody when I turn up to Centurion races. They'll attract the absolute elites of the world, like your Mark Derbyshires that are going out and doing. Did you see his result a couple of weeks ago? Did the South Downs Way 100, which is it's a tasty 100. It's about 13,000 feet of elevation, not massive climbs, but rolling. Goes and does it in 13 hours and 40 minutes. That's 8-minute miles.
Jeez.
For 100 miles. So you know, that's why I always say there are levels to this.
Yeah,
there are levels to this game. So, you know, going off and doing the Centurion races, for me, it's about, I'm like anyone else. I'm just picking my bib up and I'm going to go try run 100 miles. And exact same reason why Nat went and did the Autumn 100, the last year. I'm not going to speak for her because you need to get her on soon.
She's booked in.
Good.
I finally got a date.
Good. Finally
pinned her down.
Pin her down. Yeah, good. Pin her down for a date. Good. But yeah, I think that it's hard. It is hard. It is hard when you have some good results or a good result. It's funny really because I look at Wild Horse and stripping it right back, I'd not done much at all. I mean, I did my thing. Yeah, I'd done some 100-mile races and I'd done some shorter races, and I had a couple of, I had a low key win at the Run Walk Crawl Gower 50, and had a podium spot with Vaughan, but not, just went and did my thing. And then that then obviously, people see the Wild Horse thing, and that they create, maybe there's this creation of something that you're not, and then so they're coming into this. I'm all, it's all off the back of that. I've had some stuff in between, ticked off some 100 mile races, but yeah, it's for me it's just about going to. For me, it's just about going to do my thing. Because I absolutely love, love and hate. I absolutely love and hate going to do these long 100 mile races. It's just you just get something different from them. Absolutely love going to do long training runs. But I get far more out of doing these long 100-mile races than I would going back to go do maybe like the 30s, 40s. First, they're just too quick for me. I'm just not. It's just hard work trying to keep up and trying to hit the pace on those shorter ultras. But I absolutely love going to tackle these long races because I just think it's a hell of a thing to go and do.
Yeah. Something I've been curious to ask about is last time you was on, we spoke about your sort of resilience, and obviously you need a set level of resilience when it comes to doing these events. But what really fascinated me with you was so many people are like, right, I've had this stuff happen in my life that's made me resilient, which is why I can do these things. And other people that are like, I've found resilience through doing these things that's transferred to my life. And last time we spoke, you were saying for you, there's like a disconnect between the two of like, you've got this resilience in race, but you don't necessarily have that same in your life.
And I don't feel, I guess, and I guess I stick to that.
That how you haven't seen like a development over the last year?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if I really have it in races. I think that I struggle when it doesn't go well. Yeah, I struggle when it doesn't go well. I am far more comfortable when I know kind of I've got that support around me. So if I know that I've got, a pacer, some support crew, that then becomes far more comfortable for me. I'm not saying I can't. I think that the Winter Downs 100 I think was probably my best example of probably where I had to dig deep, because it was, whilst sort of Tom was there crewing, there were some long bits between. I was out there on my own, no pacer, and we're racing, mid-December, so it was. The race started at 4 p.m, so we basically had 16 hours of darkness. It was fucking awful. You get to 11 o'clock at night, it's already been dark for 6 hours or whatever it is. You've still got 8 hours of darkness to go. That was brutal. So yeah, yes, I can. I think yes, I can dig deep. I'm not sure how much consistent resilience I've got when it gets hard. And I've said this to Nat several times. I think what makes her better than me, argue about pace and all that kind of stuff. What makes her better for me is she's incredibly mentally resilient and strong in races when it gets really hard. One, because she's fucking mind-blowingly stubborn, which I think having that when it gets shitty and hard is massive.
Yeah.
And I've seen her do that, dig in when it's been brutal. And yeah, she has that in abundance. I always think about that, and I'm not sure I've got that or as much of it.
Yeah.
And then how that reflects to life in general, I don't know. It's always a really interesting one for me, because I think clearly you've got to have some of it, because it's you have to be, I think, to do anything like that, I think you have to have it. But I do question sometimes how much I have compared to others.
Yeah. I always find looking at the sort of personality traits of people that do these things like fascinating, and what makes people good. Like you were saying about Nat then, like you think that her stubbornness is like such a good trait to have for these events.
Let's water it down to mental resilience.
Yeah.
Otherwise I might get told off for that. You might find that unkind, but I mean it in like the absolute like most kind of complimentary positive way, because when it's shit, and it will absolutely be shit.
Yeah.
Nobody is doing 100 miles without it being shit. Even your elite, your top elites. So having that, being able to rely on that and dig into that is huge.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about. I don't really want to talk about what this, because I want her to, like, it's important for her to tell that story.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, just on the pacing bit, how well she was running the last 16 miles of a 200-mile race fucking blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, we were probably running as well as a lot of people. We were probably running as well for the last 16 miles as well as some people would have been running for the first 16 miles. And that was not. That isn't, yes, obviously that is fucking hard work, because she's worked absolutely, like, done the fucking months of training, hard work, but absolute resilience, stubbornness to get it done.
Yeah. But this is what I find fascinating, is because, like you picked up on straight away, like if you use that term outside of the event, like calling someone stubborn, they're going to be like, that's not a nice word to say. But if you look at like elite performers, like Michael Jordan, he's one of like my sporting idols because of like his mental strength and everything. But then you watch the Last Dance documentary about him, and the words that people use to describe him, you use it in basketball and it's like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
You use it outside of basketball and you're like, he's a twat.
Yeah.
And I feel like people don't realise that to get to this level of the sport, of like any sport, you have to have qualities that people won't admire. Like a big one for me is selfishness. You have to be selfish and be like, I'm training, like you said earlier, I'm training 15, 16 hours a week. As like a family person, 15, 16 hours a week is a lot. And that's not something like, you don't look for a partner and be like, right, I want to raise a child with someone. Let's choose someone that wants to be alone for 15 hours a week. Like,
no.
So it's like these people that are achieving these things, like that's the level of almost like sacrifice, but it is like that level of selfishness that you need. And you can pick out all these qualities like stubbornness, selfishness, things like that, where it's like you put that in a sporting context and you've got an amazing athlete. You put that in like a day-to-day life thing, and that's when people are like, oh, maybe I don't want that.
I think the problem is it can also reflect with me outside of training and kind of running as well. I can be quite a selfish person. Yeah, it's an unhealthy trait sometimes. I think it's an unhealthy trait though. The problem is I've committed so much to racing and training that's going to spill over into other things.
But I think this is what my point is like it's needed to do what you do. You can't do it and it not spill over, like, and people don't see that. So when people are like looking up to you and being like, look how good Nathan is, like I wish I could like win Epona and stuff, then it's
people
like,
don't need to look up to me to do that. I'm not the recipe to look up to.
You say that, but you and I know you find this hard, and I find it hard as well. But you are doing amazing things.
Look, it's fun-ish. It's, I think that I think for me it's my life outside work. I put so much into it. And yeah, I think you, unfortunately, because of how, and this, it's all, I guess it's all relative depending on what your goal and what your focus is. To try and, I guess for me, to try and push myself to the absolute limit in these races, and to get out, to essentially empty the tank and get everything, and essentially leave nothing out there, which is what I try and do, certainly for Epona. I mean, I had nothing else to give.
Yeah.
I think crossing that finish line, I think I said to Reese that absolutely broke me, because it absolutely did. I pretty much had nothing else left at the end to give. But yeah, the work to do that is huge, and yeah, unfortunately, selfishness is going to kick in. Yeah. I do miss out on stuff. I miss out on social stuff. I miss out on catching up with friends doing stuff. The gym group get frustrated with me because I'm bailing out on the gym because I need to go and do a run. Although that's less selfish. That's more because I enjoy running more in the gym. But the same thing applies. Yeah. I miss going. I cancel the weekends away to do stuff because I'm like, I need to train. It's sometimes it's really hard. And yeah, you do become selfish with it. I mean, what was amazing running with Ben for a lot of Saturday was how he does it. I mean, he's got 3 young girls, children, full-time job, wife. How he does it was just like, yeah, it's incredible. Every morning is early. And then it's squeezing treadmill runs in when he's done family stuff at tea time and in the evening. It's but again, there is selfishness there. There has to be, right? It's it's hard.
This is what I really wanted to point out, was just the fact that people will look up to you for the accolades and the achievements and being like, yeah, one day, like, I want to do that. But then they're not looking up to you and being like, I want to put in as much work as he does. I want to sacrifice as much as he does. I want to be as selfish or as stubborn. But you can't have one without the other. And if you can, it's a fucking miracle.
Yeah, but again, that's fine. I mean, I'm not. This should, these events, these races are for so many different groups of people. But yeah, look, if you are somebody and has really enjoyed doing some of these races, whether it's the Pegasus Slam, or you've done Epona, or you've done Epona a couple of times, or you've done another 100-mile race, and you're thinking, right, I want to have a run like him, or like that, or whoever it might be. I want to be amongst that group that people are chatting about. Then yeah, unfortunately there is more commitment.
Yeah,
there's more sacrifice. There are, I know we talk a bit about people chasing miles, and it's unhealthy. I am one of those people, but I think also, you can kind of get away with doing these things and enjoy them. Well, I'm not sure enjoy, but you can get away with doing these things with sort of that sort of mid mileage a week. yeah, look, if you want to go start chasing Epona and start thinking, you know what, that 24 hours or that 23 hours is doable. Yeah, it's more commitment, it's more sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's just, I think that, I mean, I'm not an expert. Somebody may tell me otherwise, but anyone I know who is, competitive or wants to be competitive. To be fair, training's pretty similar. I think the only one that does that does differently is Ben, but no less work. Just his training's different.
Yeah.
But anyone I think that I know who whether it's locally very good, or nationally very good. I mean, nationally very good, you're talking about another level completely, because most of their lives is running and training. They're on a different level again in terms of volume and the gym and everything else. But yeah, unfortunately, there is sacrifice, and it does become selfish.
Yeah. And I think that's all just like part and parcel of these pursuits, but I just wanted to like highlight it to people that are listening, because I think we're so flippant about talking about our achievements and doing these things, and we sort of, it's not even that we take it for granted, because I know I definitely don't, but like when we do talk about it, we assume that people sort of like understand that level of dedication. Like when you were saying at the finish line, like the hours that you've put in, the early starts, all of that. When we talk about people with families being like, well, they have to fit this around the kids, which is another level completely.
Yeah.
We just like, for us, it's like, well, yeah, like that's part of it. Like people know that, but not everyone does. So that's why I wanted to make a point of it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think why Epona meant so much to me. Why Epona meant so much to me, particularly particularly getting the finish that I got, was because one, it's been rough the last couple of months, but also I put so much fucking into it, like so much. Not just the training miles, but all of the other things. Not sacrificing my volume weeks, but to also do mobility every day, to do strength a couple of times a week, and then to double those, getting closer. So for the last 4 weeks, I was doing 2 mobility sessions a week, nearly strength every day, and my volume weeks. And I'm not. This isn't. I want people to feel sorry for me. This isn't like, oh, look at poor Nate doing all that and then goes and gets that result at Epona. I'm just saying that, and like, if you want to go do that, 100% go do it, because it is amazing out there. It is amazing out there doing that, but the bits in between can be fucking brutal, absolutely brutal and exhausting. Like going back to work on Monday morning when most people are like, cool, lovely weekend, chill weekend, feeling really good. I'm like, oh my God, I've run like 50 miles this weekend and I'm exhausted and I'm starting my week. But that's the reality, is that you then start another week, you start another work week and you're tired and it's like you go again.
You look at your Strava and it's like reverted back to zero.
Yeah, honestly, you're like zero. You're like, what the fuck? Like, how did that happen? Yeah, it's but look, that's if that's what you want to go and do, while you can go and do it, right? Because this, who knows? I mean, anything could happen. I can't do this forever, but I'll absolutely do it while I can and enjoy it while I can.
Yeah. Right. Before we wrap it up, I did put out that questions thing on Instagram. So I've got to go through it. So let me load this up. You've been dreading this part, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I really want to know what's been asked.
Yeah.
And I didn't prep you on any of the questions.
No, you
on
didn't.
purpose. Right, so I'll do them in the order they were asked.
Okay.
So, shall I say who's asked them as well, or is
Right,
that
if
like
it's
a
a
bit
ridiculous question, I'd like to know who it's from, please. Yeah.
So the first question I've got is, ask him if falling in the canal during Epona is the funniest thing he's done during a race. You got a few about canals, by the way.
Yeah, of course. I think actually funny and the most embarrassing thing, yeah, that's probably fair. Falling in the canal wasn't on the list. And of course it would have to be me who did that.
Yeah. I got one. Where are you going to get your Epona tattoo?
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. It's probably gonna go. It's probably gonna go on the opposite side to Wild Horse.
Okay.
Yeah. So Wild Horse is on the inside of my right calf. I'm probably going to do Epona on the outside of my right calf.
Awesome. Another canal question.
Great.
How smelly was the canal when you fell into
God,
it?
it was absolutely stinking. I got out and Ben was obviously trying to pull me out. I mean, how is this fucking happening? The two race leaders, this is shambles out there. But he's fucking pulling me out, and I'm going, my God, that's actually I could smell myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've fallen in the canal as well. I fell in Newport side, so
Right.
even rougher.
Yeah, as I say, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Reese actually messaged me yesterday, and he was like, "Was running along the canal today. Thought of you." It's like, class.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. This is a good one. I like this one. Best advice for someone moving up to their first 100 who isn't keen on plans.
I think not having a plan is absolutely fine. I've never had a sort of, there you go, this is your structured training plan, and you need to do this on this day, this on that day. I've never done that. Fucking intervals and hill sprints, absolutely fucking not. Thank you very much. I want to my training is all about, I want to enjoy it. I think that's absolutely fine. But I think the key thing is consistency.
Yeah.
It's got to be, and look at what you want to achieve, and set your kind of the plan that works for you based on what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
But I would certainly say you want to be hitting, you really want to be hitting probably 50 miles a week.
Yeah.
Because it's the conditioning, right? Like your body has to be used to running those miles. So the only really way to do that is through getting your body conditioned.
Yeah. Me being a coach, I want to like completely play devil's advocate.
Of course
and
you
just
do.
be like, no, yeah, get a plan. Super important. Come over to Adventure Athletes. I'll write you a plan. It'll be amazing. But the other side of me, the athlete side of me, is like, no, I completely get it. Like some people work really well off a plan, and they're like, I need that structure.
Yeah,
I need to be told
100%.
what to do.
Totally.
And then other people are like you, where it's like, no, as long as I'm happy doing it and I can like get it in, and I'll include some strength stuff, I'll include some mobility.
Those are key. So those are absolutely key. Mobility and strength are key.
That's the one part that I really want to caveat is I'm all well and good for people that don't enjoy running plans to just go and run.
Yeah.
Like I'll be like, try and get in some interval work, like a little bit of speed stuff if you can.
Yeah.
Like just some runs have to be faster than others. Other runs tone it back. Other runs are longer. Have like some general idea, but then when it comes to the strength stuff, I'm like, that's where you do need a plan, and that's where you do need to have someone that can look over and be like, you're doing that right. This is how I would progress it, and things like that.
I totally agree with that on a couple of points. One, I play down the whole interval thing, basically, on the speed work stuff. Basically, I will always make sure that I'm doing some runs that are more high intensity. I just don't do the whole like 3 minutes off, 2 minutes on stuff.
Yeah.
And on the strength stuff, really, really good point, because when I was going to gym class, a couple of gym classes a week, that was fine, except it wasn't prescriptive to the leg strength training that I needed to do. So having a plan for that now, I can go and do my Monday class and enjoy that. You get a bit more weight in, and that's fine, but it has to be really, running strength prescriptive. So that's really important to have in the plan.
Yeah. So if you want a plan, guys, adventure athletes,
hit Will up.
Sorry, I had to get that plug in. So another question: the average man gets 11 erections per day. How many did you get during your 100 miles?
I can probably guess who that's from.
Yeah.
Have you got names there?
I do.
Is that Rob?
It is.
Yeah, of course it is. Tell Rob to focus on high rocks and leave the running to me. What an outrageous thing to ask. You know what I mean?
Oh, I remember getting that one, and I don't know Rob for context. So
Right.
like getting that, I was just like, oh, interesting.
He's an outrageous human being.
Yeah, I got a few more from him actually.
Right, is there any sensible ones there?
There's one that I think is, did you celebrate in style?
I went home and had to sleep for 3 hours because I was exhausted. I did wake up my medal on though. What class is
Going
that?
to bed with the
Yeah,
medal
I
on.
did. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to pick it up, but I remember being at the finish line. Me and Jenks were sat down at a table. You'd left your fucking race number on the table.
Oh, would I?
Yeah. And I was going to pick it up and present it to you on the podcast, but I forgot.
I don't remember. I don't remember leaving that.
Yeah.
Oh well. Never mind.
We just saw your race number, and Jenks was like, that's how humble he is. Like, he's just like, left it there.
I don't really. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. It does just sum you up, to be fair. So, do you want the other ones of Rob's questions?
No, not really.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Going on to someone else then.
Yeah.
What gets you up and out when it's wet, you're tired, and you don't feel like running?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Those are the hardest times. I think for me, it's having a goal, so having a race book. That's usually something that is really important to me because it keeps me motivated.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest with you, I am a much better person when I've been out and had a run. A much better person. It can be a really mood dependent thing for me.
Yeah.
It's easy to lie in bed and then get up and I can feel fucking terrible. Yeah, it's shit standing on the doorway when it's like 4:30 in the morning. It's pissing down the middle of January, but within a couple of miles, like, I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah. I always find that the getting started part is the worst bit.
Yep.
It's the thought of the rain. Then it's like, oh my god.
Honestly.
As soon as you're like soaked through and you're like, I can't get any wetter now, then it's like, okay, I might as well just keep running.
Yeah, totally agree. It is really hard, but yeah, it's dragging out and doing it. And then when you're in a routine, it's not so bad. I mean, when you're in a routine of doing it, every day or every other day, you kind of get used to it. But if you do it once and then you leave it a week, it's going to be hard to drag yourself back out, man. Yeah. But yeah, it's also a mood dependent thing for me.
Yeah. Next one. What's the most effective way to cool down on a hot day?
I mean, jump in the Brecon Canal. It's funny actually. This is there is amongst that chaos. There was also I learnt something from running with Ben that day, and I've never done this. So like dunking your head and cooling yourself at any opportunity. So springs, streams, anywhere there's water. Up on the fields where they put the cheap water pumps, getting your head in there, getting your hat in there, dunking your hat in it, and so it's falling all down your back. Oh my goodness, it was like a game changer.
Yeah.
So these are little things that I've never done. Like, how have I never thought about doing that?
Yeah.
And Ben's like getting in it. I'm like, I'm getting in on that.
Yeah. I found, I got this off Jenks, funnily enough. He always runs with his baths round his wrists, doesn't he? Yes. Soaking them.
Yeah. Soaking them.
Because then, like, your wrist is like a point for heat.
Yep.
So it's like, if you've got, like, soaking wet baths on them, so it's not just running your hands under, but, like, that constant there.
Yeah.
That's been...
It gives you respite. And I think that, excuse me, that's the thing with it, is that it gives you respite. That heat on Saturday was unbearable at times. But, like, if you've got a moment and that cool water is on your back for, a couple of minutes, it can just give you a little lift to get to the next point again. And yeah, it's respite, which is massive.
Yeah. And then next question. I think this might be the last one, but I can remember getting some off Junks as well, but they're not showing in the responses for some reason. So
Right.
I might just have to message you them afterwards. Right. So last question then. How is training going for your next event, becoming a hybrid rock star in August?
That's from, is that from Dan?
It is, yeah. You're good at this.
Yeah, well, I'm only good. Well, we're doing the pairs High Rocks full simulation.
Okay.
That's down in I think it's down in Park of Scarlets in Llanelli. The training will start. I mean, you know, I do some of the High Rock stuff. The only thing I've really got to get myself back into is the sled, which I absolutely hate. So it will begin. But I'll also have a race or something booked in the coming weeks, because that's really open right now. I haven't done anything with that. Yeah. Because it was all seeing what would happen with Epona and how this knee would hold up.
Yeah.
But now I know that I can. Now I know that as long as I continue to do what I'm doing, I'll be good. I can start to think about the rest of this year, which is actually really exciting. Because like after Chester, I was like, what is this year going to look like? Because I also need to race. That's the other, like, I guess, personality trait is I need to race. I need to have races in. And they need to be significant and they need to be often.
Yeah.
And that sometimes can be really hard to balance. But now that I've got, Epona went, obviously, way better than expected. I can be excited about being a hybrid rock star, but also going to do a couple of races. And just for the record, there'll be t-shirts on for High Rocks. Men seem to have lost the ability to keep a t-shirt on now in High Rocks. Is it a term? I know. Is it a terms and condition when you sign up to a High Rocks? But if you're a male, you have to have your t-shirt off.
I can't comment.
I know you can't comment.
My High Rocks with my top off. It got so hot in there.
How is it though that we can run 100 miles in 28-degree heat, probably 30 if not more? But hybrid rock stars.
See, no, this is the thing with me. I really struggle keeping my top on a long run. The only reason I do now is because I've generally got a vest on.
Yeah.
And I don't want to deal with that chafing.
No one wants to deal with that chafing.
But whenever I used to train, whether it was free running, whether it was running, whether it was weightlifting, I would not have a top on. Right. I do not feel comfortable, like doing anything in a top.
Well, maybe you got the upper body for it. I certainly haven't. So my t-shirt stays on.
But yeah, when I did my High Rocks in London, because I did London and Cardiff.
Yeah.
Cardiff, I had a vest on the whole time.
Okay, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that.
But to be fair, both of them, it just gets so hot because the amount of like heat from everyone around you and the crowd and the lights.
It's just though that people are starting. They're in the starting pen. And they got no shirt on. I'm like, you haven't started?
I started mine with a top on.
Right, okay.
I got to the second station, I think, and I was like, fuck this.
Okay, I'll give you that, all right? But I'm like watching people at the start. I'm like, sorry, you haven't even started yet and you got your top off. Yeah. What are we doing? Anyway, it'll be shirts on for us.
Yeah, nice. Do you have any sort of big events or goals on the horizon that maybe you haven't signed up for yet because you've been waiting for Epona, but something that you've looked at and been like, oh yeah, that's a bit of me? Yeah,
I mean, I'll definitely go to the Wild Horse Mid Wales 200 next year.
Nice.
That's a definite 100%. I kind of thought about going back to South Wales, but those winning times were outrageous last year, so I'll be leaving this year. So I'll be leaving that. But yeah, I'll definitely be going to do Mid Wales, and I'll be calling my Pearson chips on Nat and some others to do that. And I don't know. I honestly would really love to go do a race abroad, 100-mile race abroad. I would love to.
Don't you have that invite?
I do. Yeah, I do. I have to think about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to think about it. It's a long way to go.
Yeah.
On your own, in completely the unknown, without support. So I need to think about that.
Yeah.
I haven't,
Just for context for the listeners, for winning Epona, you got a free entry. Do you get flights and everything?
Yeah, so all expenses paid.
It's the company's called 100, isn't it?
It's 100. It's part of the 100 kind of series, and it's essentially the grand final Brazil race in November, 100 miles. And yeah, for winning Epona, yeah, all expenses paid trip out there in an entry. So I need to see what those details look like, and then I need to see what that. I need to see what it all looks like, but we'll see. I don't know. I mean, there are other things. I've got other options for this year as well. There's a couple of other 100-mile races that are there that I could do. Yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. And then last question, last question now.
Right.
This is a completely selfish one.
Okay.
Just because it's for me.
Right.
I've got my 6 and 6 coming up.
You have.
Do you have any last minute advice for me? I've basically done all the training I can. You've seen how much I've been training.
Yeah.
Not quite as much as you, but a decent amount.
Yeah.
It's going to be my first time doing anything like this. The most I've ever run is 66 miles as part of a backyard ultra.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was also flat.
It was was that up in Cosmiston?
Yes.
Yeah.
This
is one that Sarah Perry won, right?
Yeah.
She's outrageous on backyard ultras. She's only a little
phenomenal
thing as well.
Yeah.
Absolute machine.
So unassuming.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Seems to be a bit of a theme, but that's the most I've ever run, in one go, because you've got your little 15-minute breaks every hour. So I've done all the training, all the work. Any advice for covering 230 miles across a week?
I mean, you're just going to... I mean, I guess the main thing I would say is just you're going to need to be patient. Because those miles will wear. I think, to use it's obviously completely different to doing something, and I've always wondered about this in terms of that continuous piece or the break piece, because there's the wild horse and the dragon back piece, right? Obviously the terrain is different, etc., but essentially they're similar in a sense, but it's this big difference between does the rest help or hinder. I think you're going to need to be patient. I would say do not be attacking those first couple of days. Otherwise, you will be
setting course records on the Canon.
Look. I mean, you can, but they will wear as the week goes on. I think your fueling and your hydration is going to be absolutely key. Fueling and hydration is going to be absolutely key, and you're going to need to be patient. Because they'll get harder as the days goes on, and I think you'll just have to accept that.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that I was saying to Nat actually, as she was going in sort of training going into Wild Horse, and obviously I wasn't an expert on it, and I did it once. But the one thing that I really learnt from Wild Horse that's different from every other race you do, even the 100, is that the pace will fall off. And it will feel like the wheels are gone. But you're out there for so long that you can fix that by fueling right, by resting right, by eating right. That will come back. On 100s, you don't necessarily have sometimes the time to do that if you're sort of chasing that front pack where you're out there in the front. Unfortunately, you may have gassed yourself and it could well be a death march. But in those long races, like the Wild Horse, or where you're doing consecutive days, you got time to fix that. So if you go and fuck day 1 and day 2 because conditions are bad, or it's too hot, or you haven't fueled yourself enough, fix it overnight. Rest, recover, fix it overnight, and make sure you're not getting all that stiffness. Make sure you got that foam roller out, because I think that lactic acid builds up and that rest overnight, it'll be interesting what that looks like the next day, particularly for the 3rd and 4th day.
Yeah. That's actually really helpful. That's eased me a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean they're just things to be aware of, and we all learn from those. Like those are things that you learn from, and yeah, the rhythm will be your last one, right?
Yep.
On what date?
The 3rd of August.
3rd of August, yeah.
Day after
Right.
the Edam.
Yeah, okay. Right. You'll smash it. Just stick to the plan,
Yeah,
innit?
we'll
You'll
see.
smash it. Just stick to the plan and you'll smash it.
4 weeks out now, so
I think it's exciting. I think it's great that you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's it's anything like that is a big ask.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's class. Good luck with it.
Amazing.
I'll see you out there anyway.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming back on. I know this isn't your favourite thing to do, but I enjoy these. I enjoy our chats. It's always just an excuse for me to catch up. So
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. It's good. It's weird because running is like, I guess running is like a really personal thing to me, I guess.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it becomes less personal when you're racing. And that's absolutely fine. But yeah, if any of that is useful to anyone, then
well, this is what I think is why it's so important, is because you're not this big ego or character. Like,
I hope I'm not, because I'm not. It's not why I do it.
No, you're just Nathan.
Well, I am. That's the point, and I think that's why I'm always a bit like, I'm not actually sure why anyone wants to hear from me, because I am just doing my thing.
But this is why I think it's important that people hear from you, and that's what I think my podcast is all about. Like, yes, I'd love to have like the Ross Edgeleys of the world come on the podcast and talk about swimming around Iceland like he's doing at the minute, or like hardest geezer running across Africa. But like, what makes it special for me is I'm like, I get to catch up with Nath, and like we just chat about you running 100 miles and the stuff that, like, if we was just out and about, like, be a bit harder to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
And
I do get that.
Like, yeah, for people to see that you are just a normal person, and
I mean, yeah. I hope people don't think otherwise, because I think, some of the people that you mentioned, I think that, even, I think it's interesting, right? Because you hear a bunch of these people going on podcasts and stuff, and the reality is none of us can sort of relate to 90% of that. Their lives are made so that they don't have to do anything else but these challenges.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're not incredible challenges, incredible people, because they absolutely are. But the reality is, people, us lot who have to work to pay our bills, this is a side gig. This is something that we have to, work around all of that noise and life stuff. So, yeah, I actually don't listen to any podcasts like that, because I'm just like, well, what are they? I can't relate to any of those things. I much prefer listening to a podcast when you had Ellis on, because it's just like, that's someone who I'm like, how the fuck does that guy run hills as fast as he does? Because it blows my mind, because it's something that I want to learn there. I'm not, you pick up on, weaknesses that I have, that I think that I know I have, and go, that guy has just got something there that I would love to know how he does it. So, yeah, we can learn within the community that we have. I don't,
And that's why you deserve to be on this podcast.
Well, thank you.
There's a lot of learning points from today's podcast, even just for me. That's how I like judge my podcast, is I go away and I think, what have I learnt from that? And if I've learnt something, like, guarantee there's countless other people out there that are listening and being like, yeah, no, I can relate to that. I've learnt from that. So,
well, yeah, I hope that, if people can take something from it, then great. Yeah. And that's what it should be about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what you get up to next.
I'll see. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Adventure Athletes podcast. It's been great having you guys following along my journey, seeing how we've progressed from a little attic room with like tables and like leaning ceilings, to having this whole setup and having a room dedicated to podcasting, and having the amazing guests that I have now. It's been a amazing journey, and we've gone from literally nothing to a full-time job for me, and I'm hopefully trying to expand the business enough that I can start hiring other people and making their dream jobs happen as well. So if there's any way that you want to support the business, whether that's through supporting our challenges and our socials, or supporting our sponsored athletes, because we've got a couple of those now, and it could be like getting some different advice and supporting some of our services. So we've got in-person and online coaching, we've got sports massage, and now we've got events, and there's going to be plenty more things happening in the future as well. So like I said earlier, head over to adventureathletes.co.uk to find out more, and yeah, get involved, become an adventure athlete yourself, and come along for the journey. Until next time, guys.